The number of new COVID infections in the state is staying relatively low, but authorities say the threat isn't over yet. There have been 9 new cases, taking the Avalon cluster to 104. More than 60,000 people were tested yesterday. That's another new record. As contact tracers do their work, a possible new threat has emerged. 3 cases have now been linked to a sports bar at Circular Quay. That's raising the possibility the virus could be spreading in the CBD.
Another single-digit day, cause for some holiday optimism, but still not a licence for a Sydney silly season.
Don't let the celebrations or the Christmas activities reduce the necessary nature in which we have to be on guard.
We are not out of the woods yet. We need to work together. We need to track down any unrecognised transmission.
But one particular figure from today was a welcome shock to authorities.
I nearly fell off my chair literally when Dr Chant and I and others realised that 60,000 people came forward to testing to 8 p.m. last night.
It's topped Monday's record number of swabs by more than 15,000. The Northern Beaches cluster is now at 104, and today there's further proof the virus is spreading south.
We are concerned about people who may have been infectious, who went to work in the CBD and then have passed that on to other people in the CBD, and those people have then passed it on back in their communities.
3 workers in the northeast of the CBD have tested positive, and another 3 cases are linked to a Circular Quay sports bar.
It does mean there's potential chains of transmission that we're not on top of, and that is a concern.
And some transmission risks are still being found. An aged care resident is in isolation after a nurse involved in transporting them tested positive. The infection's linked to the Avalon cluster, but the nurse was also recently involved in a hotel quarantine transfer. And investigations continue into a Sydney airline worker who tested positive after returning from overseas through the Northern Territory.
Mistakes will continue to be made, and I can't pretend that's not going to happen.
Something else that happened unexpectedly, the NT has revoked its hotspot declaration for Greater Sydney, but not the Northern Beaches, and Sydney-siders quarantined in the top end will be released. With restrictions for the next 2 days in place, Crisis Cabinet will next meet on Boxing Day to reassess the restrictions, but on New Year's Eve there is one certainty.
7 minutes of fireworks at midnight will be happening no matter what. But I'll certainly be watching it from home, and we encourage everybody else to do that as well.
A plea to stay in so Sydney can get back out in the new year. Tim Swanston, ABC News.
And Tim Swanston joins us now. Tim, what's the advice for people celebrating in Sydney over the next 2 days?
Well, Jeremy, it's well acknowledged by health authorities that over the next 2 days, people will be spending time with elderly relatives as well as those who are the most vulnerable to the virus. So the advice is to try and have events and get-togethers outdoors, as well as generally limiting the number of people that you're coming into contact with. Health authorities have suggested that other get-togethers should be postponed till the new year, when hopefully the state is more on top of this latest outbreak. As for testing, health authorities want to see that testing rate continue, the same high testing rate we've seen over the last week. And there will be capacity for testing on Christmas and Boxing Day. The Premier has urged people, if they do get symptoms on Christmas and Boxing Day, to go and get tested and not delay till the 27th.
Tim Swanston reporting. There's been a lot of confusion today about the new COVID rules on the Northern Beaches as locals tried to firm up their plans for tomorrow. 70,000 people live in the new Northern Red Zone. They won't be allowed to have any visitors from outside the area, and they'll have to make do with up to only 5 local guests at home for Christmas.
People either side of the Narrabeen Bridge are still coming to terms with the new COVID border.
There's a lot of people online that are confused whether they can go across the boundaries for shopping and exercise.
Everyone's been a bit anxious, on edge, and we didn't know how to prepare for Christmas this year. It's been a little bit all over the place.
It's pretty confusing. From everyone I've been speaking to, doesn't really make sense.
One thing that is for sure is Christmas lunch at his restaurant is cancelled.
I had 7 functions booked, the whole restaurant, my neighbours, their restaurant across the road. Everyone was fully booked.
He says there's one thing that's canned in a good way. the takeaway margaritas he's now selling, hoping to spread some Christmas cheer.
Bananas, apples, oranges, pears.
In Brookvale, residents from struggling migrant communities are still able to collect the basics with these COVID-safe donations.
I feel like, in northern beaches, there's a lot of people are ready to support, regardless your religion, your, background. They always come and support, especially for migrants like me.
The community is coming together for Christmas, but not physically. With midnight mass replaced by a video service, it really will be a silent night at St Kieran's.
We need to give ourselves a pat on the back for our patience through all of this.
But not everyone has been patient.
A Northern Beaches woman who lives in Bilgola Plateau has been issued with a $1,000 fine for breaching COVID restrictions. She was found more than 200 kilometres away on the south coast after she collapsed in a Sanctuary Point pizza shop. The 37-year-old was taken to hospital and, despite showing COVID symptoms, refused to be tested.
She's been ordered to isolate for 14 days. James Carmody, ABC News, Sydney.